My name is Linda, and the night they ate cake with my credit card and laughed, I realized my family never saw me as blood, only as a wallet. It happened on my birthday. Not a milestone, not a big party, but still a day I thought might matter. I had worked late, finishing contracts for the real estate firm I had fought to join. All I wanted was dinner with my parents, my brother Daniel, maybe even a small cake with my name written in icing. Something that reminded me I wasn't invisible. Instead, when I walked through my parents' door, I found them already gathered around the dining table. A cake sat in the center, white frosting piped neatly. A row of candles melted halfway. They were laughing, forks already in their hands, plates smeared with sugar. My brother raised his glass. "Happy birthday, Cass." Cass. Not me. Daniel's wife. I froze in the doorway. Wait, what? Cassandra, her smile sharp as the knife beside the cake, looked at me like a cat who had just stolen the cream. "Oh, Linda, don't pout. It's just a little cake. We thought we'd celebrate my promotion. You don't mind, do you?" My parents chuckled. My father said, "Your sister-in-law has done so well. She deserves it." I looked at the cake again. My name wasn't written anywhere. But the receipt on the counter caught my eye, and my heart sank. The charge was from my card. They had ordered a cake with my credit card. For Cassandra. On my birthday. My chest burned, my throat tightened. I whispered, "That's my account. You used my card?" Daniel shrugged, his fork still in his mouth. "Relax, Linda. You make good money. It's just cake. Don't be dramatic." Everyone laughed again except me. That was when something inside me cracked. Not a loud shatter, but a silent split. I stood there, tasting the bitterness of betrayal, watching them enjoy sweetness bought with my own sweat. I turned away before they saw my tears. That night, I lay awake in my apartment, staring at the ceiling. The glow of the street lamp cut across the room, and I thought about every time they had brushed me aside. Every "you'll manage," every "Daniel needs more help," every sacrifice I made without recognition. I told myself, never again. But the universe wasn't finished proving the depth of their betrayal. The very next morning when I checked my mailbox, a thick envelope waited. The paper inside was cold, official. Foreclosure notice. My parents' house, the home I had grown up in, was weeks from being seized. And scrawled across the bottom of the notice, in my father's handwriting, was my name. They had listed me as guarantor. Without my consent. My family hadn't only used my card for cake. They had used my credit, my future, my name, and now their ruin was tied to me. I drove to my parents' house with the notice in my hand. The street was quiet. Frost clung to the hedges. My heart beat hard enough to shake the paper. My mother opened the door with a practiced smile. "Linda, we were just making coffee." I walked past her and set the notice on the dining table. "Why is my name on your foreclosure?" My father joined us, adjusting his glasses as if that could blur reality. "It is a bank formality," he said. "They attach names of close family." "That is not true," I said. "A guarantor signs." I did not sign. Silence spread like cold water. My brother Daniel appeared in the doorway and then vanished. My mother folded the edge of a napkin until it tore. "Your father was under pressure," she whispered. "The rate changed. The roof leaked. We meant to tell you." "Meant," I repeated. The word tasted like metal. I flipped the notice. A copy of an electronic authorization was stapled to the back. My name. My date of birth. A signature neat and wrong. Not my hand. I felt the room tilt. Who did this? No one answered. My father looked at the floor. My mother's eyes filled, but not with apology. With self-pity. "We thought you would help," she said. "You always help." There it was. Not guilt. Expectation. I left before I said words I could not take back. The bank sat on the corner of Maple and Fifth, a glass cube filled with quiet and lemon polish. I asked for the manager and placed the notice in front of him. He scanned the page, then opened a file on his screen. "Your authorization came through 3 months ago," he said. "Electronic consent. 2-factor confirmation by text." "I never received a text," I said. He turned the monitor slightly so I could see. A masked phone number was listed under secondary contact. The last 2 digits were familiar. My breath caught. Rowan. Rowan was my partner. 3 years. Steady voice, easy smile, a habit of saying, I will handle it. I had trusted him with spare keys, with my calendar, with the small bones of my days. Months ago he had asked to be an authorized user on one card, for travel points. I had agreed. He had cooked that night. Candlelight. Music low. It had felt like a promise. Who added that number? I asked. The file shows a household update, the manager said. He pointed to a log. Submitted from your home IP. The uploader identified as Rowan M. Household manager. The room narrowed to a pin. May I see the signature file? I asked. He printed it. My name curved across the page in a clean line. But the pressure was wrong. The loop on the L was closed. Mine is always open. Can you confirm this was not me? I asked. I cannot make legal statements, he said gently. But I can note that you are disputing the consent. That begins a hold. A hold. One thin breath between me and ruin. I stepped outside and called Rowan. He answered on the second ring. Warm voice. Hey Lynn. Everything okay? You added your number to my bank file, I said. You approved a guarantor authorization for my parents. You signed my name. A pause. Long enough to hear traffic and the rustle of his coat. They needed help, he said. You said you worried about them. I solved it. You forged me. I handled it, he said again softer. Do not make this bigger than it is. I stared at the glass doors, my reflection pale and small. It is my name. My credit. My future. That is not small. He exhaled. I did not want to burden you with forms. Your parents were a mess. Daniel said the roof would collapse. I covered a payment last month on your card so you would not see a hit. I am protecting us. Protecting us. I hung up before the world turned to static. I drove home and pulled every statement I could find. The cake receipt was the smallest wound. There were other cuts. Subscriptions I had never used. A hotel charge labeled Client Suite. A furniture store order for a sectional couch I had never sat on. The dates circled a pattern, months when Rowan had handled it. I opened my email. A line item from a digital notary service. I clicked. The session log showed an IP, a timestamp, a consent check marked approved. Beside the approval was a note. Signer verified by text code to secondary number. Rowan again. My hands shook. I typed his name into my messages. The thread bloomed with photographs. Dinners. Train tickets. Smiles. I scrolled further back. There it was. A photo I had not noticed before. It was the night of the cake. He had texted a picture to Daniel. The cake on the table. Cassandra's raised fork. My father's hand with a knife. Underneath, Rowan had written, "Make it big. She will not say no. She never does." Something in me went very still. My phone rang. Julia, my oldest friend, the one who had watched me make myself smaller at every family dinner. I answered and told her everything in clipped sentences. The card. The notice. The forged consent. Rowan's voice. "Come here," she said. "We start now. No crying until the file is built." I packed a bag. Laptop. Paper. The notice. I slipped the key to my parents' house onto the counter and left it there. Door closing behind me like the end of a season. At Julia's kitchen table we spread the evidence. She made a list in neat blocks. Bank dispute. Police report. Credit freeze. Loan hold. Affidavit. She handed me her spare phone and said, "No calls unless we log them. No texts without screenshots. Every word is proof." I breathed for the first time all day. Then my phone buzzed with a new message from Rowan. "I booked dinner. Let us talk this out. You are overreacting." I stared at the bubbles as if they could catch fire. Another message followed. A photo. Rowan at a table. A slice of cake. A glass raised. Across from him, a flash of red sleeve and a gold bracelet. Cassandra's bracelet. The caption read, "Family handles family." My throat closed. The room couldn't hold air. Julia touched my arm. "He is not only reckless. He is aligned. Aligned. With them. With the people who used my name like spare change." I picked up a pen and wrote a single sentence at the top of a fresh page. "I will not be anyone's guarantor again." Because an hour later, A courier knocked with an envelope marked urgent. Inside was a notice of transfer. A lump sum was scheduled to leave my savings at dawn, authorized by household manager to cover arrears. The destination account was a name I knew too well. Rowan Marcus Investments. The courier's envelope shook in my hands. My savings, years of careful work, every promotion, every late night at the office, set to vanish in one sweep. Rowan had filed himself as my household manager. The arrogance of it. The betrayal. I sat at Julia's kitchen table and spread the documents like a crime scene. Bank notices, receipts, the forged guarantor form, now this transfer order. The pattern was undeniable. It was not one slip, not one bad choice. It was a campaign, steady and deliberate. My family had built a machine of need, and Rowan had joined them, feeding on my silence. Julia leaned forward, her eyes sharp. We need to lock down your finances. Every account. Every card. Freeze them tonight. We spent hours on the phone with banks, reciting security questions, changing passwords. I added two-factor authentication with codes only I could reach. Each step was a wall. But even as we built them, I wondered how many doors Rowan had already walked through. By midnight, the accounts were frozen. I felt lighter, but only slightly. Evidence is armor, but armor cannot heal wounds. The next morning, I began gathering proof methodically. I printed every statement. I highlighted every unauthorized charge. The cake receipt was almost laughable compared to the hotel stays, the transfers, the utility payments for a house that was not mine. At lunch, Julia's lawyer friend Claire joined us. She was compact, efficient, her voice carrying the clipped cadence of someone used to cutting through lies. She skimmed the pile, her brow furrowing. You have enough to open a fraud case. The signature discrepancies, the unauthorized number on the bank file, the transfers, it's all evidence. I felt a tremor of relief. So the bank will cancel the debts? Claire's eyes softened, but her tone was firm. Not yet. Banks fight. Families deny. You'll need more. Screenshots of texts, proof of IP addresses, any admission from Rowan or your parents. Build it like a trial. Assume they'll lie until the end. That night I searched my phone. Buried between Rowan's casual messages were phrases that now stung like nettles. I'll handle it. Don't stress about the paperwork. I used your card, but I'll replace it next week. Promises that had evaporated before they were spoken. I forwarded everything to a hidden email folder, labeling each by date. Julia watched quietly. It feels endless, doesn't it? But this is how you take back control. One file at a time. Still, the deepest cut was not numbers. It was the photo of Rowan with Cassandra. Her red sleeve, her gold bracelet, his smug caption, "Family handles family." That picture told the whole story. He had chosen sides. He had chosen them. The next day, I drove to the bank in person. The manager, the same man who had shown me the forged file, now avoided my eyes. "Ms. Hale, your accounts are frozen per your request. But there's a pending complaint filed under your name. It claims you're unstable, that you authorized these transactions willingly, and now regret it." My stomach dropped. Who filed that? He lowered his voice. It was submitted electronically under household authorization. The signature matches the same digital profile. Rowan. Again. I walked out into the cold with my binder pressed to my chest. My name was being twisted into a weapon against me. That evening, Julia brought Chinese takeout. She set cartons on the table, her eyes blazing. They want to paint you unstable? Then we paint them thieves. You have everything you need, Linda. You just need the right moment to use it. I shook my head, exhaustion pulling at me. I want to scream. I want to call them, shout until they hear me. Julia's hand closed over mine. No. Screaming is their tactic. Silence is your strategy. We'll wait. We'll gather. And when we strike, it will not be a shout. It will be a verdict. Her words settled into me like iron. Later, while I filed another stack of receipts, a memory surfaced. My grandmother's voice long ago, when I had been left out of another family dinner. She had held my hand and whispered, "One day, Linda, they will realize they built their comfort on your back. When that day comes, stand tall. Don't beg. Don't cry. Just show them the bill." Now I finally understood. Because as I closed my laptop that night, A new email pinged into my inbox. The subject line read, "Notice of hearing petition filed against Linda Hale." And at the bottom, the petitioner's name made my heart twist. Rowan Marcus on behalf of Daniel and Cassandra Hale. The email glowed on my laptop screen like a warning flare. Notice of hearing petition filed against Linda Hale. Filed by Rowan Marcus, on behalf of Daniel and Cassandra Hale. My chest tightened. He had not only betrayed me personally, he had gone to court with them, aligning himself openly. The family who had eaten cake on my card was now dragging me before a judge, with Rowan holding their leash. Julia read the notice over my shoulder. "They're accusing you of what?" I scrolled down, bile rising in my throat. The petition claimed I had erratically managed finances, that I was hoarding family assets, and that I had willingly co-signed the foreclosure and then tried to withdraw. It painted me as unstable, selfish, greedy. Every word inverted the truth. I whispered, "They're building a narrative where I am the villain." Julia's jaw hardened. "Then we find allies who know the real story. This isn't about shouting louder. It's about building a case they can't erase." She picked up her phone. "I'm calling Claire." Claire arrived within the hour, her leather bag thudding onto the table. She read the petition silently, then set it down. "I've seen this before. Families band together, spin lies, hope the court gets lost in emotion. But they've underestimated you. You already have documents, receipts, signatures, IP logs. That's not drama. That's evidence." Her words steadied me. She opened her laptop and began typing. "We'll file a counter-petition. Fraud. Forgery. Unauthorized use of personal information. We'll demand a forensic review of the digital authorizations. Banks hate fraud. They'll side with you once it's undeniable." Julia leaned back, crossing her arms. "We also need to think beyond the court. They'll smear Linda's name to anyone who'll listen. We need voices who can speak for her character." Claire nodded. "Neighbors. Co-workers. Anyone who has seen the pattern. If they try to paint you unstable, we drown them in testimony of your stability." It was strange hearing others speak about me as if I were a case study. But I knew they were right. Evidence was armor. Allies were weapons. Over the next days we built the defense like a fortress. I spent hours at the bank with the fraud department, pushing for every log. They handed me time-stamped records proving the authorization had come from my apartment, while I was logged into work 20 miles away. My badge swipes, my emails, all lined up to show I could not have been present. Claire smiled when she saw the timestamps. "This is gold. It's digital alibi. Rowan will have to explain how your hand signed forms you never touched." Meanwhile, Julia began reaching out to people who had witnessed the family's treatment of me. Mrs. Alvarez, our old neighbor, remembered when my parents had called me the spare. My former professor recalled the time Daniel borrowed my research project and claimed it as his own. Piece by piece, the narrative tilted back toward the truth. But the hardest ally to seek was inside myself. The part that still longed for my parents' approval. The part that whispered, "Maybe if you forgive them, they'll love you." One night I admitted it aloud. What if I still want them to see me? To admit they were wrong? Claire's gaze was firm. "Linda, recognition is not justice. Do not confuse the two. If you chase their approval, they will weaponize it. You don't need their validation. You need your dignity." Her words struck deep. The hearing date loomed. Claire advised one more step. "We can't just defend. We need to pivot. We'll file a motion to freeze their access to any shared accounts. If they've touched your savings, we'll expose it. If Rowan's company received transfers, we'll trace them." Julia added quietly, "And we need to be ready for theater. Cassandra thrives on spectacle. They'll try to humiliate you in the room. We'll counter not with volume but with precision. One envelope at the right time can silence 100 lies." I nodded slowly. The counterplan was forming. On the night before the hearing, I sat alone with the binder. My grandmother's words echoed again in memory. "When they come to you for space, show them the bill." Tomorrow I would. But just as I began to feel steady, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "Linda, you think your file protects you. But Rowan recorded everything. One video and the court will believe him. Better stay quiet." The next morning as I entered the courthouse, Rowan was already there. smiling, phone in hand, as if the whole trial was a show he had scripted. The courthouse air was cold, humming with footsteps and whispers. Rowan stood by the door with Cassandra and Daniel, his phone in hand, smile sharp as glass. He looked like a man who believed the script was already written. My family clustered behind him, whispering, their faces arranged in practiced worry. Julia squeezed my shoulder. Ignore the theater. We know the truth. Claire led us to a side table and opened her laptop. This is where the counterplan matters. They'll come at you with spectacle, tears, blame, maybe even that so-called video Rowan hinted at. We respond with precision. Piece by piece, we dismantle their lies. I nodded, though my throat was tight. If they do have a video. Claire's eyes met mine. Then we prove it false. Rowan may be clever, but forged digital evidence always leaves traces. Metadata. Timestamps. We'll subpoena everything if needed. But remember, our strongest weapon is not shouting down their drama. It's exposure. You show the court what they've done with your name, your accounts, your life. You make them answer. I breathed slowly. Exposure. Yes, that had always been their greatest fear. Truth out in the open. Claire laid out the plan like a general before battle. Step 1: Establish fraud. Present the digital authorization log showing I could not have signed from work at the same time. Step 2: Introduce financial forensics. Trace every unauthorized transfer to Rowan's company account, showing self-dealing. Step 3: Testimonies. Neighbors, professors, co-workers. A chorus of voices to counter their unstable Linda narrative. Step 4: The envelope. Claire smiled slightly as she tapped the sealed folder in her bag. This holds the forensic handwriting analysis we commissioned. An expert compared your signatures across contracts with the forged guarantor form. Their report concludes, without question, it was not you. We won't show it until the moment they feel strongest. When Rowan thinks he's won. Her calm steadiness grounded me. The day before the hearing, Julia and I worked through every file. She played devil's advocate, mimicking my brother's mocking tone. Linda is overreacting. She's dramatic. She authorized it and forgot. I countered with dates, receipts, photos of me logged into office systems across town. I repeated until the words felt like stone. Unyielding, undeniable. That night I barely slept. Dreams of candles on Cassandra's cake blurred with courtrooms filled with laughter at my expense. I woke sweating, then sat by the window until dawn, whispering to myself. Not the forgotten one. Not anymore. When the morning came, I dressed with care. A dark suit, simple jewelry, no extravagance. I wanted the truth to shine, not distraction. In the courthouse waiting room, I heard Cassandra's laughter. She spoke loudly on purpose. Honestly, it's sad. Linda always wanted attention. Now she gets it, in front of a judge. Daniel added, she'll crack before lunch. Always does. Rowan chuckled, the sound a knife. Julia touched my elbow. Let them think that. The higher they climb, the harder the fall. In the courtroom, the judge's gavel brought silence. The petitioner's side spoke first. Cassandra's voice dripped with false sweetness. We only wanted to protect Linda. She's been unstable. Forgetting things. Spending wildly. Rowan saw it firsthand. Rowan nodded solemnly, as though he were a guardian. I stepped in to manage her affairs. She asked me to help her parents. Now she wants to erase her own consent. Every word twisted the truth. For a moment, anger burned so hot I thought I'd burst. But Claire's hand on my arm reminded me, patience. When it was our turn, Claire rose calmly. She began with the logs, the signatures, the transfers. Piece by piece, the picture unfolded. My binder became our weapon. Every highlighted line, every screenshot, every timestamp like a brick in a wall they couldn't climb. Still, Rowan smirked. He reached into his pocket. Your Honor, he said. I also have video evidence. A recording of Linda acknowledging the authorization. Cassandra's eyes glittered. Daniel leaned back smug. The judge nodded. You may present it. Rowan tapped his phone, projecting a clip. My stomach lurched. It was me, sitting at my desk at home, papers in front of me. My voice saying, yes, I'll authorize it. The courtroom murmured. My parents exchanged relieved glances. Cassandra smirked at me openly. Julia whispered, deepfake. Claire's lips curved faintly. She stood. Your Honor, we anticipated this tactic. That is why we commissioned independent forensic analysis of Ms. Hale's digital identity and handwriting. We submit Exhibit G. She placed the sealed envelope on the table with deliberate calm. The sound cracked like thunder in my chest, because as the judge opened the envelope, Rowan's smug smile faltered for the first time, and I knew the counterplan was about to turn the stage against him. The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers as the judge opened Claire's envelope. Rowan leaned forward, still trying to recover his mask of calm. Cassandra's nails tapped the table, her smile daring me to break. My parents sat stiff and hopeful, as if the forged video had already saved them. The judge adjusted his glasses, scanning the document. This report comes from a certified forensic handwriting expert. It states conclusively that the signature on the guarantor authorization does not match Ms. Hale's verified handwriting samples. Probability of forgery, 99.9%. A wave of whispers rolled through the courtroom. Cassandra froze mid-tap. Daniel shifted uneasily. Rowan's smirk cracked into a grim line. For a heartbeat, relief surged in me. Proof. Finally. But Rowan wasn't finished. He rose smoothly, as if the blow had been expected. Your Honor, even if the handwriting was forged, that doesn't disprove the video evidence. Handwriting can be falsified. But Linda's voice, her face, clearly admit consent. That cannot be denied. The judge turned toward us. Claire remained composed, but her eyes flicked briefly to me, sharp as warning. This was the pivot. Rowan tapped his phone again. The video replayed, my image flickering on the screen. Me at my desk. My lips forming words I never spoke. Yes, I'll authorize it. The murmurs grew louder. A juror frowned, glancing from the screen to me. My heart hammered. I could almost feel Cassandra's victory curling around the room like smoke. Claire stood. Your Honor, we request that this video be examined by a digital forensic analyst. The defense believes this footage is manipulated. Rowan laughed, low and confident. The desperate always cry forgery. Technology doesn't lie. But Julia, sitting behind me, whispered urgently. Metadata. The file has metadata. Every digital file does. Her words jolted me. Of course. I raised my hand. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge nodded. My voice shook at first, but steadied as I went on. I've worked in real estate contracts for years. Every digital file leaves a footprint, timestamps, device IDs, encoding signatures. If this video is genuine, let it be analyzed. If it's false, the truth will come out. The judge tapped his gavel. Very well. The video will be submitted to an independent examiner. Until then, it will not be considered decisive. Relief surged again, but only for a moment. Rowan was ready. He pulled another paper from his bag. In the meantime, Your Honor, we present testimony. Signed affidavits from family and friends attesting that Linda has often been forgetful, unstable, prone to paranoia. He handed them up like weapons. I scanned the names from my seat. My aunt. 2 cousins. Even a former coworker who had once sided with Daniel in an office dispute. The list was long. Cassandra smiled at me sweetly, her eyes full of malice. It's nothing personal, Linda. People just see patterns. You forget things. The words stabbed deeper than the documents. For years, my family had called me dramatic, emotional, too sensitive. Now they had weaponized it, turning old jabs into legal ammunition. Claire's jaw tightened. She whispered to me, "This is the complication. Character attacks are hard to counter. We'll need real testimony in your favor. People they can't dismiss." I thought of Mrs. Alvarez, the neighbor who had seen my parents lock me out as a teen. Of my professor who had watched Daniel steal my work. Of colleagues who knew I was the one who stayed late, who never let files slip. Allies existed, but would they step forward fast enough? Rowan leaned back, arms crossed, sure of himself again. Linda may have paperwork, but character matters. The court must ask, is this woman trustworthy with finances when so many attest to her instability? The judge looked thoughtful, flipping through the stack of affidavits. My chest tightened. The battle had shifted. The evidence was strong, but perception was fragile, and Rowan knew it. Because just as the hearing adjourned for the day, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. 3 words that froze my blood. Check Rowan's ledger. The message burned into my vision. Check Rowan's ledger. I stared at it all night, unable to sleep. Ledger. The word pulsed with promise. Rowan prided himself on being meticulous. He tracked everything: investments, payments, favors to Daniel and Cassandra. If someone hinted at a ledger, it meant Rowan had left behind a record he didn't expect me to see. By dawn, Julia was already at my side. "We have to find it," she said. "If he's kept detailed notes, that's the nail in his coffin." Claire arrived an hour later with her laptop. "If it exists, it's either on his company's system or in cloud storage. The court won't let us guess. We need proof. Hard proof." I thought back to Rowan's habits, his routines. He loved order. Every night he'd sit at his desk with his whiskey glass, entering numbers into spreadsheets. He thought it made him look disciplined. To me, it had once seemed comforting. Now I saw it for what it was. Arrogance leaving a paper trail. Julia snapped her fingers. "What about the shared Dropbox he once made you join? The one with the tax receipts?" My pulse quickened. I pulled up the folder on my laptop. At first, only the usual receipts, invoices, statements. But hidden at the bottom was a subfolder, its name a bland string of numbers. I clicked, and there it was. A file labeled Household Allocations, Private. I opened it. Rows of transactions filled the screen, color-coded with ruthless precision. My name appeared at the top as primary guarantor. Beneath, categories: mortgage, Hale, vacations, Cassandra, investments, Rowan Marcus Holdings. Each entry linked back to my accounts. Every charge, every stolen dollar, documented by Rowan himself. I gasped, covering my mouth. Julia leaned close, eyes wide. "He cataloged the theft himself. Linda, this is gold." Claire smiled for the first time in days. "We'll subpoena this immediately. If it's authenticated, it destroys their entire petition. He'll be exposed not just as manipulator, but as accountant of the fraud." That morning in court, Rowan's side strutted with confidence. Cassandra whispered to Daniel, their laughter sharp. My parents avoided my eyes. Rowan smirked, phone in hand as though ready to play his video again. The judge called the session to order. Rowan rose first. "Your Honor, as we showed yesterday, Linda has a history of poor decisions. Multiple relatives testified to her instability. We maintain she authorized the guarantor form, and her recent denials are simply regret." Claire stood calmly. "The defense would like to introduce newly discovered evidence. A digital ledger, maintained by Mr. Marcus himself, detailing transactions siphoned directly from Ms. Hale's accounts." She handed a printout to the clerk. The pages slid across the judge's desk. Rowan stiffened. His smile faltered. Claire continued. "Every unauthorized payment is recorded here. Vacations for Cassandra, mortgage payments for Daniel, transfers to Mr. Marcus's own investment firm, all under the label Household Allocations, with Ms. Hale listed as guarantor." The judge flipped through the sheets, his expression hardening. Rowan tried to speak, but Claire cut him off smoothly. "The metadata confirms the file was created and updated on Mr. Marcus's devices. He kept a record of the theft, Your Honor. His arrogance documented the very fraud he denies." Gasps spread through the courtroom. Cassandra's face drained of color. Daniel's jaw dropped. My parents shifted uneasily, their pride curdling into dread. I stood then, my voice steady. "They laughed while eating cake I bought. They forged my name to secure their home. They called me unstable, dramatic. But here," I pointed to the ledger, my heart pounding. "Here are their own hands writing the truth. Every dollar stolen. Every lie exposed." The judge's gavel struck once. "This evidence will be admitted. The petition against Ms. Hale is suspended pending review of these records. If verified, charges of fraud and forgery will follow." Rowan's mask cracked completely. His knuckles whitened on the table. Cassandra hissed at him, her voice carrying in the hush. "You said this was safe," Daniel muttered. "You dragged us into this." My parents sat frozen, eyes darting between me and the ledger, as though seeing me for the first time. And in that moment the balance shifted entirely. I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I wasn't the guarantor of their ruin. I was the one holding the receipts, literally. Because as we left the courtroom, A reporter rushed forward, shoving a microphone toward me. Linda, is it true your family and partner stole thousands from you? Are you pressing charges? The story was no longer a secret, it was about to go public. The reporter's microphone hovered inches from my face, the courthouse steps buzzing with voices and cameras. Linda, she pressed. Is it true your own partner and family orchestrated financial fraud against you? Will you pursue charges? The words echoed. People slowed on the sidewalk, phones raised to capture the moment. For years I had been invisible. Now every eye was on me. I drew a breath. My pulse thundered, but my voice came out steady. Yes. The truth is written in their own records. Every stolen dollar. Every forged signature. I will let the law decide their fate. But today everyone sees who they really are. Gasps rose from the crowd. Flashes burst. The reporter nodded sharply. So you're not denying it? I have nothing to deny, I said. They do. Behind me, Rowan shoved through the crowd, his face tight with fury. She's twisting everything, he shouted. That ledger isn't mine, it's Rowan. Cassandra hissed, tugging at his arm, her face pale. Stop talking. But it was too late. Every camera swung toward him. Every mic picked up his flustered voice. Daniel tried to walk away, but another journalist called out. Mr. Hale, how do you respond to accusations you used your sister's accounts to cover your mortgage? Daniel froze, cornered, his jaw clenching. My parents stood a few feet back, huddled together, whispers darting between them. My mother's hands trembled as she pressed a tissue to her face. My father stared at the pavement, as though the cracks might open and swallow him. Julia slipped beside me, whispering, This is it. Exposure. They can't hide now. Claire joined, her calm voice steady over the chaos. Don't answer more here. Let the documents speak. Every word you say now will echo louder than you intend. So I said nothing else. I simply walked down the steps, past Rowan's sputtering denials and Cassandra's frantic gestures. The cameras followed, but for once their eyes didn't see me as background. They saw me as the center. By evening, the headlines blazed. Family fraud exposed in court, daughter produces ledger. Partner accused of forgery and theft against longtime girlfriend. My phone buzzed nonstop. Colleagues sent messages of support. Old friends from school wrote, We always knew you deserved better. Even strangers online flooded comment sections calling me brave. But inside my parents' house, the fallout was different. Neighbors whispered on the lawn. Cassandra's friends stopped answering her calls. Daniel's boss reportedly pulled him into a meeting, furious about the attention. Rowan's investment firm website went offline within hours. The family that had laughed at my expense now hid behind closed curtains. Still, the storm wasn't finished. That night my mother called. Her voice was raw. Linda, how could you? We're family. You didn't have to make it public. I swallowed the bitterness in my throat. You made it public when you filed against me. You called me unstable in front of a judge. You let Rowan use my name like a spare key. I didn't make this public, you did. She sobbed softly, then whispered, We'll lose everything. For once I didn't flinch. Maybe you'll lose what wasn't yours to begin with. I ended the call. My hand shook, but it wasn't weakness. It was release. The next morning, the consequences unfolded in real time. Rowan's face appeared on the local news as investigators confirmed they were opening a fraud inquiry. Cassandra deleted her social media, but screenshots of her flaunting new furniture and vacations in style circulated alongside my ledger. Daniel stayed silent, but whispers spread that his mortgage company would review his loan. And my parents, they received the first letter from the bank, confirming foreclosure proceedings would move forward unless payment was made. Without my forged guarantor, they had nothing left to shield them. Because as I sipped coffee, staring at the news ticker naming Rowan as person of interest, an email arrived from an unknown sender. It read, Linda, the ledger isn't the whole story. There's another account, and it's in your name. The email glared from my screen. There's another account, and it's in your name. For a moment my mind went blank. Another account? My name was already scarred by the foreclosure, the forged guarantor, the ledger Rowan left behind. What else could he have hidden under my identity? Julia leaned over my shoulder. We need to trace this. If it exists, it could be dangerous. Claire joined us on a video call, her expression sharp. Rowan's the type who builds backups. If he set up a shadow account in your name, it may hold transactions you don't know about. He could use it to argue you were complicit. If we find it first, we control the story. If he reveals it, you're trapped. My hands trembled on the keyboard. We began searching through every financial portal. Password resets. Two-factor codes. Hidden sub-accounts buried under the same bank login. And then I saw it. Account ending in 4721. Holder Linda Hale. Balance $186,000. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. It looked like I had been sitting on nearly $200,000 while claiming to be the victim. Julia whispered. Please tell me you never saw this before. Never, I said. My throat burned. Claire's voice cut through the panic. Check the deposits. Where did the money come from? I clicked through the history. Line after line of transfers appeared. Each from Rowan's firm, Marcus Investments. Notes read: client allocation, distribution, reimbursement. My stomach dropped. He had used my name to funnel money, disguising stolen funds as if I had benefited. If this account came to light without context, it would look like I was his partner in crime. I whispered, he built a trap. If he falls, he drags me down with him. Claire's jaw tightened. Then we make the trap his cage, not yours. We show the court he created it, controlled it, deposited into it. We prove you never touched it. The next hours blurred into a frenzy of screenshots, downloads, sworn affidavits. Julia scrolled endlessly through Rowan's smug notes in the ledger, cross-referencing dates with deposits. Patterns emerged. Each time money left my accounts for his expenses, a reimbursement arrived in the shadow account, making it look like I'd been complicit in the scheme. I slammed the binder shut. He didn't just steal. He tried to rewrite me as his accomplice. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced Julia's kitchen, hearing Rowan's voice in my head. Don't stress. I'll handle it. He had been handling me all along, weaving my name into every thread of his fraud. By morning, the news cycle had turned sharper. Local anchors reported that Rowan denied wrongdoing, claiming all transactions were jointly authorized. Cassandra was quoted as saying, Linda always agreed until it stopped benefiting her. Daniel added, she's painting herself a victim now, but she was in on it. Their story was clear. Frame me as greedy, unstable, and complicit. But Claire was already moving. We'll preempt them. We filed discovery demanding Rowan produce original login data. If he refuses, the refusal itself damns him. And if he complies, the logs will show the truth. He created the account, not you. Julia leaned close. Linda, this is the day after storm. They're scrambling to twist the narrative. But every twist means they're panicking. Still, I couldn't shake the image of those numbers. $186,000 in my name. My parents would seize on it. Daniel would spin it. Cassandra would laugh, saying, see? She profited. And Rowan would smile, pretending he was protecting me even as he cut the ground from under my feet. The day ended with a hearing date moved up. The judge wanted answers quickly, given the scale of the evidence. Because that evening, as I prepared files with Julia, a letter slid under the apartment door. Thick paper. Bold handwriting. The message inside froze me solid. If you push this further, Linda, the house you grew up in won't just be foreclosed. It will burn. The letter lay on Julia's table, its words still burning into my mind. If you push this further, Linda, the house you grew up in won't just be foreclosed. It will burn. For hours I sat staring at it, anger and fear twisting inside me. Threats. My family had crossed from betrayal into intimidation. Rowan's fingerprints were all over it. The arrogance, the cruelty, the belief that fear could silence me. Claire arrived the next morning with a folder under her arm. When I handed her the letter, she scanned it, then nodded grimly. This was their last card. Threats are desperation. And desperation leaves trails. We'll submit this to the judge with everything else. It shows intent. Proof they will go to any length to escape accountability. Her calm steadiness gave me strength. At the final hearing, the courtroom was tense. Reporters filled the back rows. The judge's gavel brought silence. Claire rose and laid the new evidence on the desk. The threat letter, the ledger, the fraudulent signatures, the shadow account logs. Piece by piece, the picture became undeniable. She ended simply. Your Honor, this was not a mistake. This was not family confusion. This was calculated fraud, coercion, and intimidation against Linda Hale. And the perpetrators are sitting in this room. The judge turned toward Rowan, Cassandra, Daniel, and my parents. Do you have any response to these new exhibits? Rowan's mask finally shattered. He stood, voice raised. This is outrageous. She wanted the money, she knew all along, she. Enough, the judge said firmly. Your own records betray you. This court finds ample evidence of fraud and forgery. Formal charges will proceed. Cassandra gasped, covering her face. Daniel slumped forward, muttering curses. My parents sat pale and silent, their empire of pride crumbling in real time. And me? For the first time in years I felt steady. Outside the courthouse the press swarmed. Microphones, cameras, flashing bulbs. But I no longer shrank from them. I stood tall. My family laughed as they used my card. My partner forged my name. They thought silence was my weakness. But silence was my strength. I gathered proof. I built my case. And today, the truth spoke louder than their lies. The words rang out, carried on every camera. I didn't just defend myself. I owned the story. That night, Julia and I sat together with tea, watching the news reports play back. Rowan was named in the anchor's voice as facing fraud charges. Cassandra's face flashed across the screen, labeled under investigation. Daniel's mortgage was flagged for review. My parents' foreclosure moved forward without appeal. Justice step by step. And me? I wasn't a guarantor anymore. I wasn't the silent daughter, the background shadow, the forgotten sister. I was Linda. The woman who stood, who fought, who proved that betrayal cannot erase dignity. If you're listening to my story, I want you to remember this. Revenge does not always roar. Sometimes it builds quietly like a wall of proof, until the lies collapse under their own weight. If someone has used you, humiliated you, told you that you don't matter, remember, you are not powerless. You can gather your truth. You can build your strategy. And when the time comes, you can let the evidence speak louder than their laughter. I am Linda. They ate cake on my card and laughed. They tied their ruin to my name. But in the end I handed them the bill, in front of the world. And so can you.